Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. In the annals of cinematic excess, there are few moments as surreal as the day the Fast and Furious franchise officially left Earth's orbit. Once a story about street racers boosting DVD players and running nitrous through souped-up Hondas, the saga eventually turned into a multi-billion-dollar behemoth of gravity-defying stunts, resurrected villains, and family dinners that always ended with coronas. But even the most forgiving fans raised eyebrows when Universal greenlit the infamous space sequence in F9. Now, years later, NBC Universal chief Donna Langley has broken her silence. In a rare candid moment at a Hollywood industry roundtable, Langley offered a half apology, half confession about the creative decision that forever changed how audiences viewed both the franchise and blockbuster filmmaking itself. Her words: "We can never get that genie back. Once you send cars into space, you can't go back to street racing." The statement rippled across Hollywood, reigniting debates about studio greed, audience expectations, and the absurd elasticity of intellectual property. To some, Langley's words were a humble acknowledgement of hubris. To others, they were an overdue reckoning with a decision that, depending on your perspective, either cemented Fast and Furious as a pop culture legend or permanently turned it into a meme. This is the story of how a studio, a franchise, and a group of filmmakers decided to chase the stars, and why they're still apologizing for it. Chapter 1: From Street Racers to Superheroes. The original The Fast and the Furious 2001 was modest by Hollywood standards, $38 million budget, shot mostly in Los Angeles, blending street racing culture with undercover cop tropes. It was essentially Point Break with cars. Nobody, including director Rob Cohen or producer Neil H. Moritz, expected it to spawn one of the highest-grossing film franchises of all time. But success breeds ambition, and ambition breeds escalation. By the time Fast 5 hit theaters in 2011, the series had reinvented itself as a globe-trotting heist franchise. The pivot worked, box office numbers soared, and the ensemble cast became international superstars. The formula became simple. Each new movie needed to top the last with bigger stunts, higher stakes, and more outrageous scenarios. A car dragging a giant vault through the streets of Rio. Check. A tank barreling down a freeway in Spain. Done. Cars parachuting out of a plane over the Caucasus Mountains. Why not? And then came the inevitable question in the writer's room: what if we went to space? Chapter 2: The Pitch That Defied Gravity. According to multiple insiders, the idea of sending the Fast crew to space was first floated half-jokingly during early F8 story meetings. "We were spitballing, and someone said, the only place left is space," one former Universal executive recalled. Everyone laughed, but the laughter lingered. By the time F9 entered development, the space idea had graduated from a joke to a mandate. Director Justin Lin, returning to the franchise after a hiatus, was hesitant at first. "I remember thinking, are we really going to do this?" Lin said in an interview. "But then I realized, the DNA of this franchise is pushing boundaries." The studio saw it differently. Fast and Furious was competing in an era where superhero movies dominated global box offices. To stay relevant, it needed to lean into spectacle, and what could be more spectacular than a Pontiac Fiero strapped to a rocket, floating above Earth? Chapter 3: The Scene That Broke the Internet. The space sequence itself lasted only a few minutes, but its cultural impact was seismic. Tej Ludacris and Roman Tyrese Gibson piloted the makeshift rocket car into orbit, tasked with destroying a satellite that threatened global communications. The scene was played with a mix of earnestness and meta-humor, with Roman marveling that they were two dudes from the hood in outer space. Audiences didn't know how to react. Some cheered at the audacity. Others rolled their eyes. Memes flooded Twitter within minutes of the movie's release. One viral post summed it up. The Fast crew went from stealing DVD players in 2001 to fighting satellites in space in 2021. Cinema is dead. Long live cinema. Box office receipts didn't suffer. F9 grossed over $720 million worldwide, but the franchise's tonal credibility did. Critics accused Universal of turning Fast and Furious into a parody of itself. Fans debated whether the move was genius or desperation. Chapter 4: Donna Langley's Dilemma. Donna Langley, then chairman of Universal Filmed Entertainment, had been one of the key executives shepherding the franchise. She approved the space sequence, understanding both its risk and its potential for buzz. Years later, however, Langley admits that while the move brought attention, it also set a dangerous precedent. The problem wasn't space itself, Langley explained during her recent apology. The problem was once we crossed that line, everything else felt small. How do you go back to a drag race in LA after outer space? Her comments reflect a broader industry challenge: escalation fatigue. Hollywood franchises, from Transformers to Jurassic World, often fall into the trap of trying to outdo themselves until they collapse under their own absurdity. For Universal, the genie wasn't just cars in space. It was the audience's expectation that each fast film would top the last, no matter how implausible. Chapter 5. Industry reactions. Langley's apology sparked an avalanche of responses from filmmakers, critics, and fans. Vin Diesel reportedly responded with diplomacy, telling an interviewer, "Family can handle anything, even space. We did what we had to do to keep the saga alive." Tyrese Gibson, ever the comic relief, tweeted, "I told y'all space was my idea. Don't at me." Christopher Nolan, asked about the apology at a film festival, smirked and said, "At least they didn't reverse the spin of the Earth." Yet, fans on Reddit debated whether Langley was genuinely regretful or just trying to reshape the narrative ahead of new franchise installments. Chapter 6. The Meme Legacy. If Langley regrets the space leap, the internet certainly doesn't. The meme economy around Fast and Furious skyrocketed after F9. Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube were flooded with parody edits, fan animations, and mashups imagining Dom Toretto racing the Millennium Falcon or drag racing Elon Musk's Tesla Roadster in orbit. The moment Fast went to space, it transcended cinema. It became a cultural shorthand for franchise absurdity, invoked anytime a movie series spirals into implausibility. In some ways, that meme legacy is more powerful than the films themselves. Chapter 7. Could it have been different? Looking back, some insiders argue that the space leap was inevitable. Every franchise faces a ceiling, one producer said. You can only crash so many cars, blow up so many bridges, or drive off so many cliffs before audiences tune out. Space was a logical, if ridiculous, step. Others disagree. Critics suggest the franchise could have doubled down on emotional stakes, character arcs, or a return to its street racing roots instead of going interstellar. But Langley's comment, "We can never get that genie back," reveals the heart of the issue. Once you've raised the bar to infinity, even the most heartfelt character moment risks feeling small. Chapter 8. Lessons for Hollywood. Langley's apology is more than a mea culpa, it's a case study in Hollywood decision-making. Studios are addicted to escalation because escalation sells, at least in the short term. But escalation also carries diminishing returns. The Fast and Furious saga teaches us that spectacle can't replace substance forever. Audience expectations are both a gift and a curse. Once a franchise becomes self-parody, it's almost impossible to reverse. For NBC Universal, the challenge now is figuring out how to bring Fast and Furious back down to earth, literally and metaphorically. Chapter 9. The Road Ahead. Despite Langley's regret, the franchise is far from dead. Fast X and its planned sequels continue to draw massive global interest, and spin-offs like Hobbs and Shaw show the brand's durability. But the studio is reportedly rethinking its creative strategy. Instead of trying to go bigger, Universal insiders suggest future installments may focus on tighter narratives, more grounded action, and emotional resonance. Whether fans will accept that shift remains to be seen. As for Langley, her apology isn't just about Fast and Furious. It's about the larger question of how Hollywood balances spectacle with sustainability. Conclusion. The genie that changed Hollywood. The Fast and Furious franchise's trip to space will forever be remembered as both a triumph of imagination and a symbol of Hollywood excess. For Donna Langley, it's a cautionary tale. For audiences, it's a reminder of how far blockbuster filmmaking can stretch when fueled by ambition, ego, and a little bit of nitrous. Perhaps the best summation came from a fan on social media after hearing Langley's apology. They put a car in space. You can never apologize for that. That's cinema history. And maybe that's the paradox of the Fast saga, equal parts ridiculous and revolutionary, regrettable and unforgettable. Once you've seen a Pontiac Fiero orbiting Earth, you can never look at drag racing the same way again.